Mullinger's Weekly Ramble.
Hello, my friends. It is Thursday, the 20th of March, 2025. And it is, of course, time for episode 47 of Mullinger's Weekly Ramble. That's right, the podcast is the exact same number as I am, if that makes any sense. I'm 47 and the podcast is at 47. Anyway, I know I'm a day late. I do apologise for that. I am in the throes of, I know I'm always saying it's the busiest week ever. This possibly is the busiest. My wife and I are in the middle of a colossal film project for a very important organisation, which I will be talking about it all next week. We're just right in the middle of it, and the big announcement will be being made in the next few days. So again, sorry, and then also my house is not under siege as such. That hasn't happened yet, but we do have an incredible film crew in our house filming an interview with me for let's just say a TV show hosted by a TV legend. If you are coming to my show tonight at Long Bay Brewery, you will be seeing that amazing crew and meeting that amazing TV star. That's right. Tonight, warm-up show, new material night at Long Bay Brewery in Rothesay will be attended by, and I guess I can reveal to you, she will very kindly be introducing me to the stage. It is also, crucially, her birthday. So if you're wondering who is the star, I guess Google Canadian TV stars that were born on the 20th of March. Merch? How desperate am I to sell merch that I am changing the month of March to March? We've got lots to talk about because there's been basically some of the greatest performing arts releases in the last week. So anyway, I will just quickly say Long Bay show tonight. Again, testing all new material. We'll be asking the audience for your suggestions. And yes, on stage, introducing me. Stage, obviously, a piece of plywood propped up on beer barrels because, hey, that's showbiz. And I'll be, as ever, I'll be improvising all of your subjects, which incidentally, while I'm on that, this time last week, the warm-up show I did at Hampton Brewing Company, what's the word? It was one of, I would say, the most freewheeling, out there, lively crowds. I mean, what an audience. I guess what I'm trying to say is if you were at the Hampton Brewing Company last Thursday night, Thursday the 13th of March, thank you for being there. And thank you. I mean, the crowd was incredible. It possibly wasn't, some members of the audience were possibly more drunk than you would want at a normal comedy show, but at our warm-up show where anything goes, and sorry about that was my stomach rumbling. It was just, I mean, Hampton Brewing Company, as many of you know, is an absolutely beautiful spot, founded by a group of friends who all met at Hampton High School, bonded, started making beer together, which as Maritimers do, but then turned it into realized, obviously, I guess very quickly that they were very good at it. Turned it into a brewery, started selling commercially, and then opened the tap room, which is just such a gorgeous space. Last summer, I performed in the outside area, which again is incredible. They got a stage outside. They decorated it beautifully. There were lights. I don't know if you saw the wonderful pictures that Tyler Warren Ellis took last year when Ethan Ash and I did a few shows there. But absolutely gorgeous spot. So this year, I've been obviously taking the shows inside for obvious reasons due to the fact that we live in the Antarctic. And I've been testing new material inside, and it's just been a blast. But I'm feeling like the way that the weather's been, thanks to the old GB, the old global warming, I feel like soon enough, it's not going to be long until we can take the shows outside again. Not least due to the fact that Simon, one of the owners, is also a carpenter, is building an incredible kind of roof out there. There's heaters out there anyway. So anyway, it was amazing, and also because I ended up doing about 100 minutes, and didn't at any point kind of veer into old or polished material. It went well enough that I can go, okay, you know what? By the end of March, I'm going to have a solid new 80, 90 minutes. The EV car bit, which I feel has the potential for a greatness. Has the potential to be good enough for me to, trot it out doing the crap that I do, is getting there. And it was interesting because the crowd I would say, correct me if I'm wrong if you were there, it was a different crowd. There was a lot of old school, Peninsula guys there, a lot of people, drunk. A lot of people, I would say most people in there hadn't seen me live before. So again, that's always an interesting test when you're doing the new stuff, because when you're doing the new stuff for an audience that has seen you multiple times, and by that point, obviously you can call them friends. I mean, they are friends by that point. They know you, they know your rhythms, they know your beats. But when you are essentially performing brand new material and improvising for audiences that have never seen you, I'd say that is somewhat a test, because you are having to win them over with stuff that isn't quite ready yet. Anyway, so Hampton Brewing Company was absolutely phenomenal. I will go through the week very shortly. Obviously, I mean, what I thought was going to be the big release of the year, that sounds medical. The big release I thought was going to be obviously Bill Burr's special that was released on Friday. Obviously, if you were listening last week, you'll know that that's right. When I last recorded this, it was the morning of my birthday. Had a wonderful evening, by the way. Watched a terrible movie called Flight Risk with Mark Wahlberg, but I say terrible. So I'm about to burp. Oh, that was the most pathetic burp in world history. It was just one of those. It's a B movie. It's one of those, what we would have called in the old days, straight to video. Although I still use see that phrase being used. Straight to video. I guess now what you would call, a lot of people would call it, straight to Netflix, or straight to streaming. But the thing is, that is no longer, as we're about to discuss, a seal of lack of quality. Basically, what I'm beating around the bush. I'm just going to get to it because I know that when I start talking about it, it's going to be a bit like, I was going to say a bit like Trump in that once I start, I can't stop. A bit like him with the ladies. Anyway, Adolescence is what I'm trying to get to. Adolescence on Netflix. Now, I'm probably the last person. What was I going to say? I'm probably the last person in the world to be telling you about this, because everyone understandably is talking about it. It's interesting what a phenomenon it has become. If you don't know, Adolescence is a 4-part British series that landed on Netflix, I believe, earlier this week, maybe 5 days ago, and it has been number one in pretty much every country in the world. I mean, so in essence, it's kind of a phenomenon, a bit like Baby Reindeer, when you have a show that is intrinsically British, intrinsically about, it's about an issue that affects everyone globally, but it has been particularly prevalent as a major social ill in the UK. But the interesting thing being that it landed without any kind of fanfare. It hasn't. It's not like one of these things that comes out and then is huge because of a massive hype machine behind it. I mean, granted, the incredible stars, and so the creator is Stephen Graham, and the writer Jack Thorne. It is Stephen Graham and his amazing wife's production company that have produced it. And Brad Pitt is, I believe, an executive producer. Interestingly, saw his name in the credits. I can only assume that was to get the kind of funding that they needed to produce such a. I mean, I overuse the phrase game-changing, as you know. It is an absolute television marvel. Now, to put this another way, I mean, I love Stephen Graham. The actor, many of you will know him, obviously, from Scorsese movies like Gangs of New York. He is in The Irishman. This is England. He was known for... it's done so many amazing things. I mean, Brits have known and loved him for years. North American audiences have started to obviously be aware of him in Scorsese movies. He told a wonderful story on the Graham Norton show recently when Graham asked him why Leonardo DiCaprio has a nickname for him, the nickname being Animal. and his nickname is Animal because of the colossal amount that he can drink on a party night out in, I believe it was in Italy they were. Anyway, whenever they were filming at Gangs in New York. And I mean, let's face it, Leonardo DiCaprio is one of Hollywood's most famed partiers. So when you, as a Liverpudlian a British actor, can impress Leo, as he calls him, Leonardo DiCaprio, so much that he calls you the Animal, you're pretty hardcore. Anyway, the point is, Stephen Graham has the show Adolescence, 4 parts, comes out on Netflix, basically no fanfare, no real hype. It's there on the thing. Through simple word of mouth and just absolute dazzling brilliance, it has become a phenomenon. Watching British TV, I've seen the cast. Ashley Walters is in it, who many of you will know as Duchesne from Top Boy, a phenomenal actor. I met him very briefly. I spent some time on a photo shoot with him in London when I worked for GQ, when he was part of a musical collective. Anyway. We started it 2 nights ago and finished it last night. It's 4 hours. You probably, if you start it early enough, you'll finish it in one sitting. But when you're waking up at 6 o'clock in the morning every day to record podcasts, and have already been up and out before that, with your brain rolling over, reminding you of every embarrassing thing you've ever done and all of your failures. I tell you, that's one of the things that is nice about a week like this, when it is so busy, when we are literally back to back, writing scripts, deadlines, just everything, camera crew coming into the house, needing to be basically being pulled in a lot of directions, but in a somewhat focused way for once. It's kind of interesting because it basically means that I've got no time to kind of think about all of my perceived failures in life. Essentially, when it's this busy, the business is great for the ADHD brain, so also, the other thing about having these huge jobs is my to-do list constantly has about 20 or 25 things on it, because there were aspects of these jobs that I've got going on right now that were so stressing me out, finishing scripts, that kind of thing. What it kind of means is that I get everything else done on my list because I'm kind of putting it off. So, I mean, again, if you're one of those people that procrastinates a lot and has long lists of to-do lists that you can't get done and things you can't finish, basically sign up for a massive job, or sign up for something, or commit to something so that you kind of then go, okay, that's going to be really hard, so I'll get everything else done first, and so I got everything else done, and then I got the scripts done. So and it was great. I mean, like, there was a chapter for the book, the new book that I'm writing. There was a really hard chapter that I'd been going back and forth with the editor on, and it involves like my relationship with my mum and my granny, who died extremely young. It was my mum's mum. She died basically the same age that she died the same age. I was the same age that my youngest son River is now when she passed, and so it was quite emotional. My mum seeing River a couple of weeks ago, last week, when they went to England, and having this amazing time with him. Anyway, so point being, this chapter has been, we've been working on it for about a year and a half. That's long, but we've been working on one chapter with me and the editor, going back and forth, trying to get it right. It involves a very, I guess, a moment in my life that shaped pretty much everything I do. It happened, I think I was about 9 when it happened. Anyway, all of that is to say that I got all that stuff done because I was kind of procrastinating the other big job. So I got that chapter done. I got some magazine deadlines that I had for other publications that I'm writing for. So by the way, thanks for all the messages about the new issue of the magazine, because I have to say it's one of my favorites. Seeing the amazing Oksana from Galbraith Florists on the newsstands, it blows me away. Kelly Lawson's photography is just amazing. Kelly Lawson's photography and writing is as beautiful and brilliant as Oksana's magical floral arrangements. Two incredible artists, both based in St. John, collaborating together on this feature, this cover that we are blessed enough to be able to share with the world. And a lot of the interview that I was doing yesterday for this TV show, Hilton House, was about the magazine, and it was very interesting having this kind of game change. I tell you what, I had a moment 2 nights ago. I went to Shoppers, and I posted this picture on Instagram. But I went into Shoppers and saw Kelly's photograph of Oksana on the newsstand, and it was next to, I don't know, Lady Gaga on Time magazine. I don't know who these. I think it was Gaga on Time, but on. Where's my phone? I might have a picture of it. There's a picture of it on my Instagram feed. But anyway, and then on the front cover of Vogue was, I don't know, Scarlett Johansson, and it was just. I'm looking at all these magazines and thinking, wow, all these magazines have 40, 50, 60 people working for them, all on ridiculously big salaries. Most of these magazines are obviously receiving colossal amounts of funding, or they're owned by billionaires, or they're part of these huge machines. And in my humble opinion, and I'm not blowing my own horn, trumpet, whatever you want to call it what you like, love. Because, again, you're only as good as the people you work with. And really, as the editor of a magazine, I'm simply a curator of other people's work. So I'm not taking credit. But my point is this, that the Maritime edit on the newsstand was, in my opinion, the best, most striking cover on there. And I thought, wow, look at this. We do get, some support and help, and it's very nice that people are kind of to subscribe and the rest of it. But it is a hard old game. I didn't tell you that it is hard keeping a print magazine alive in 2020, which is absolutely strange to me. I mean, right now, when with all the stuff going on in the world, no newspapers in Atlantic Canada. Basically no Canadian magazines writing about anything that happens east of Quebec. I genuinely am somewhat perplexed why the magazine isn't more read, more supported, more. I don't know, like why. I mean, and look at what is happening. I'm going to try not to say his name. I think I did already say it earlier. I'm going to try not mention. You know who, because it just gets more and more depressing, and this week, I mean, it gets more and more ludicrous, is what it gets. Well, if I'm going to get to, yesterday or whenever it was this week, he said how Canadians are nasty, and it's just it's the weirdest thing, because it's like, okay, you can make up all these different lies, you can talk all this bullshit about tariffs, blah 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 blah, but it's so weird when. It's like now it's kind of self-sabotage. It's kind of like, okay, what can I get away with? Like I'm saying and doing racist things. I've already got away with rape. I've already got away with I'm basically firing people because of the color of their skin. I'm detaining people. I mean, and then it's almost like he's like going through like the list of taboos and going, okay, well, everyone knows Canadians are the nicest people in the world. I wonder if the yes men that I'm hiring, you hear this, there's like no actual journalists even Fox News is now too liberal for him, that basically the journalists he has in the media I'm asking the questions are like literally all just from those like far right wing blogs that he probably bankrolls himself. I said I wasn't going to talk about him. My point is, I don't know. Anyway, I felt such. Sorry, I didn't mean to cough in your ear there. I felt just such immense pride, thinking, "Wow, all of these other publications with all of these benefits, privileges, and then this mag that is put together by a handful of people in a small town in New Brunswick is, in my opinion, the most beautiful looking." Magazine cover on the newsstand, and also full of most uplifting stories about Canadian and crucially Atlantic Canadian entrepreneurs doing amazing things. Everyone's wanting to support Canadian, right? Well, it doesn't get more Canadian than that. Anyway, I didn't mean to turn this into a plug my own thing, but I just it's not my it's a publication. Yes, it's my wife's baby, which is why I'm obviously so incredibly proud of it, but I'm more proud. I'm equally proud of the fact that of the people that are featured within. Amazing people doing amazing things you won't read about or hear about anywhere else because there's anyway. And this I've talked about this before, but about the fact that there's all these, everyone spends their money advertising on. Have you seen on Facebook? That there is actual New Brunswick support local campaigns, buy local campaigns where they don't advertise in the multi-minute, but they send the money to Silicon Valley, to Mark Zuckerberg, who then uses that platform to support his buddy Trump, but also I'm sure you've noticed recently all of these fake. You can't post actual news on Facebook still. I do hope that Mark Carney sorts that out somehow, because that still is this. There's genuinely never been a good reason for that to be the case. So now, of course, there's these fake news things popping up. So it's like, it looks like a CBC article and it'll have like Mark Carney on it or Susan Holt, or it'll have someone, but it's fake. And it's basically trying to get people to invest in crypto. So you can advertise fake things, but you can't put real news on Facebook. I mean, we should all be leaving it, really. Anyway, Adolescence. I read the review in the Guardian newspaper in England, which called it the closest thing to TV perfection in decades. It's about a teen. I don't want to give away too much because it really is best watched as it's intended. But it's about a teen accused of murder. It is absolutely astounding. Now, crucially, in addition to it being a incredible piece of writing, filmmaking, acting, it is a technical marvel in that, and this is gonna. When you watch it, I'm just saying what I'm sure you already have. But just watch it. It could not be more on the nose, socially and politically in England right now. Some newspapers have even commented that it could actually save lives. If you're a parent of a child of any age, genuinely terrifying, deeply moving. Utterly harrowing. I mean, I am still traumatized from last night. There's a handful of films, movies that you watch in your life that stick with you forever. I have to say, if you were looking for another one, Dear Zachary, I think it's called a letter from Zachary, or Dear Zachary, a letter to his father. I watched that 14, 15 years ago, and it felt like a sucker punch, and I still haven't quite. Still feels like that. But this, now, the technical marvel I'm referring to is the fact that every episode, every hour-long episode is filmed in one take. One take. And now, unlike movies like Birdman and other big productions that have proudly done the one take thing, there's no cheats in this. There's no it's one take and then someone's back kind of passes the camera and then they can do a cut. There are no cuts, and it's unbelievable. And you might be thinking, oh, so it's all filmed in one room. No. There's I cannot even. Obviously I went down a rabbit hole last night on Netflix on YouTube of watching clips of them doing it and reading articles on Variety about how they did it. We're talking like two people talking, and then the camera gets into a car, and then multiple cars are shooting into a house, and then there's a raid on a house, and then they get in another car and they're going to an entirely different building, and then they're in a different building and they're going around, and there's even a scene in a school with hundreds of extras, hundreds of them, being heard. I mean, and obviously they're not all professional lecturers. They're many of them are literal kids of that school. Again, no spoilers, but there might be a fight, and at no point, and there is one episode that's filmed mostly in one scene, and that is the scene between a child psychologist and someone a child who's been accused of something. Erin Doherty is the child psychologist, a phenomenal actress. Owen Cooper, who plays the boy, had no major, obviously he's probably 13, 14, had no major acting experience before, and delivers what is unquestionably one of the greatest child, if not all, performances of all time. Absolutely. I mean, it's unbelievable. And bearing in mind, this is a child delivering a performance like this in one take. and in I would, and of course, the aim of this is to create this kind of this tension, and feel the same panic that the characters are feeling. Is it slightly distracting when it is interesting? Because I mean, I was completely immersed and engrossed, but obviously, occasionally was removed from the action, thankfully, because it is absolutely horrifying. Because you're thinking, oh my goodness, how did they do that? So much so, actually, that my son Hunter kept impersonating me, because like every now and again I would go, it's one take. My son does a very funny / offensive impression of me. Those of you that knew my son Hunter when we moved here, he had a very quaint, cute little 3-year-old English accent. Now he obviously has a Canadian accent because basically our vocal, wherever you live, basically at 13 or 12, your voice is fixed, and wherever you move after that, whatever age you are, your accent stays. But before that, your kind of vocal intonations haven't been, whatever. Anyway, he used to have an English accent. Now he does an English accent. Something like whenever I say something, he's like, like he does this impression of me. So he's like, it's one take. Did you know it's one take? But one take, absolutely. Phenomenal. Just, I mean, watch it. I don't want to give away too much. When I read these reviews saying it was TV perfection, best thing in decades, I thought that it was an exaggeration, and I watched it, and it's not. I mean, as I say, staggering performances, but crucially, as well as touching a nerve with its kind of gut punch, it's proving to be basically a vital call to action for parents. I mean, we all know. I mean, interestingly, this new series dropped basically the same week, which I don't know if you know the story of the awful story of the crossbow killer in England, Kyle Clifford, who had murdered 3 members of a family, basically, but basically due to a male pride, misogyny. He was a girl broke up with him, and he went and did this thing. And there's multiple cases like this, which is what inspired Stephen Graham. And unsurprisingly, the crossbow killer had, before committing this atrocity, and like so many of them, had obviously been a fan of Andrew Tate. Anyway, I don't want to talk too much. Just watch the show. And I will move on from it. But yeah, just an absolute gut punch. And again, thank the Lord for the schools that are banning mobile phones, and crucially the schools that are banning mobile phones and actually enforcing it. And again, as parents, we can, children shouldn't have the device, the most addictive device in the world in their room at night. Anyway, we'll move on. I mentioned the Bill Burr special. Bill Burr, it landed on Disney Plus. It's hilarious. It's hilarious to think when you grew up with Disney and what Disney, and it's like Disney's releasing Bill Burr's new special. It was great, and I loved it. Interestingly, he shied away from some of the more, I would say, controversial routines that I saw him do in Halifax 18 months ago. Again, it's funny how a lot of Bill Burr fans now don't like him because they think just because he's not, just because he's slightly enlightened, that there's a lot of people going, not funny anymore, not funny. He's in his wife's purse. He's not funny since he went woke. It's like it's so weird. It's like, how can you watch? It's so weird, that whole, well, actually people have done that about Adolescence. There's it's glowing reviews from critics, mostly good reviews from audiences. There's obviously a handful of people going, so it's woke, it's wokeism because there's a character of color in it, and there's a misogynistic character, so therefore it's woke. I mean, anyway, Bill Burr's special, loved it, thought it was great. There's some absolute moments of genius, like the whole how is war still a legal thing? How is it? And then the fact that, America, the fact that they, drop bombs randomly and then claim that people are using children as human shields. And he has a great line when he goes, you got to work around that. And it's just like, again, a comedian stating the obvious, something which politicians. The Biden stuff obviously now feels dated, but fine, whatever. But yes, laughing at talking about the fact that the president is slightly senile now. Obviously, is very dated, and also, I mean, I think America chose psychotic over senile. Interestingly, the last bit in the sorry, I have to drink of water. It's been all day talking yesterday, and I'm speaking all day today talking. So, what's new, James? The routine, the show, the special does, and it's filmed absolutely beautifully. I mean, if I was ever filming a special with an unlimited budget, this would be the model. And the theatre he chose just looks gorgeous. Like, it's not a huge venue like Red Rocks and like the Royal Albert Hall. Like, he obviously he's playing Hammersmith Apollo in England this June, I think, for British listeners, both of you. Hi, Kyla. Love you. Thanks for having us the other week. Missed you. What was I saying? Yeah. The special ends with a routine that is a bit, and I've said surprising. I mean, again, these American comics often don't go for the big finish, or if they do, it's very, what's the word? That the word for like when it's very manipulative. For example, I watched Andrew Schulz's special Life, which was not what I thought it was going to be, and I thought it was very strange. And it's interesting because Schulz obviously has got big through doing these kind of essential kind of roasts about the country that he's in. It's quite clever. I mean, basically, he goes on the road, travels the world doing these massive arena shows, shares online the opening bits when a comedian does lots of us do this, where you go to a town and you open with stuff about that town, and he does these things, has released those. And so the show Life is about him and his wife trying to conceive through IVF, something that I have many friends that have been through. Schulz kind of uses it as a platform to basically get away with doing a load of masturbation and borderline racist jokes. Borderline. I mean, they are. It's interesting how a white comedian has somehow again got away with this whole. I mean, again, it's interesting. Yeah, I mean, I guess is it the world we live in now where a racist can be a president? I don't know. I mean, again, they are. Don't get me wrong. Some of them are funny, but it's just interesting how. He gets away with stuff that a lot of people wouldn't get away with, but there's a lot of masturbation jokes. Well, interesting about these two specials is they both have bits that are similar to bits that I used to do that dropped. Schulz has a graphic routine about trying to masturbate into a cup for a sperm test, and I obviously had a bit about in my vasectomy routine. I say obviously, I'm not assuming you've seen it. If you want to see it, it's in my if you Google my name and Almost Canadian, it's my 2019 stand-up special. It was filmed at Harbour Station Arena. And I dropped it because I thought it was a bit filthy, although I did like it. I guess I wrote about it in my book as well. There's a chapter in my book called Vasectomy. Anyway, Bill Burr's special ends with a routine that essentially boils down to kids say the damnedest things. Is it damnedest or darndest? Damnedest. Kids say the most mental. Oh, that's the other thing is that, I mean, Schulz also kind of constructs a joke that enables him to kind of repeatedly use the word I guess I can say it. I mean, I'm putting this in inverted commas, the word retard, by putting words in someone else's mouth, which again, it's like they didn't say that. You wrote that joke and have put it in someone else's mouth to get away with it. Similarly, Bill Burr has a routine. Bill Burr has a routine. I'm going to use another offensive epithet now. So if you have kids in the car, please produce the sound or mute it for a sec or fast forward 15 seconds. Bill Burr has a routine about the word. I'm about to say it. Is it Bill? Is it in this? Yes, he has a routine about the word. Turn sound down now if children in the car, about the F word, faggot. And I swear it's identical to a routine Louis C.K. did a few years ago. Louis C.K. did a routine not only actually interestingly on that F word, also on the R word, but both of which are essentially going, why hasn't someone found a replacement for this word? We don't mean it in an offensive way, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, it just feels a bit old. Anyway, most of Bill Burr's specialists, Genius, I love Bill Burr, so I'm not criticizing him, and I know he's the best, and I am just a lowly nobody comedian. So you're probably thinking, who the hell are you to comment on a great comedian's work when you're a nobody sitting in a loft in your house talking into a microphone for a podcast no one listens to, and who cares what you think, James? I know that's what you're thinking, but I'm just giving my opinion. So my opinion is that the final routine in Bill Burr's is a bit, it's basically a story. It's like his son essentially. Well, and again, some of you might remember I used to do a joke about my son's balls, and him pulling on them and me saying, "Oh, your children live in there," and okay. If you were thinking what I thought you were thinking before, you're not going to like this. So here's my opinion. His routine is basically his kid says, "My balls." He says, "Wash under there," and he says, "What you mean, my balls?" And Bill Burr's like, "Where did he get the words my balls from? He must have got it from me." And he's like, "Yeah, that's right. You've got balls." That was the big joke. It's basically at best an anecdote on a chat show, but given Bill is the king of anecdotes on chat shows, I mean, it was such a weird story to end on. And it was essentially kids are the damnedest things. I think that my balls routine about a child's ball so weird. The crowd pleasing favourite of a routine about child's balls. I thought mine was always better. It had a great ending, which was the son in question talking to his balls, going, "Hello, hello, I can't wait to meet you," to his children. I thought that was a great. I dropped it ages ago because I thought it. I don't know why I dropped it. Dropped it because I guess I'd done it too much. And it's also the kids also grew up, and also I try not to do. I don't do stuff about my kids anymore really on stage because again it's not fair on them. Anyway, what's my point with all this? Yeah, it was just a strange ending I thought for a comedian of Bill Burr's caliber to do that. That Friday night I went out. I had coffee with my dear friend Steve Patterson on Friday. I just realised I haven't written that down in my diary, which is a major oversight. It was just so nice. Well, I guess because it wasn't planned. Steve was in town playing the Imperial Theatre, reached out to see if I could meet for coffee. Me and River went to meet Steve for coffee at beautiful Catapult Cafe in St. John. Amazing. Not only is it a beautiful cafe and the coffee's great and the staff are great and the gluten-free treats are great, but also it's obviously affiliated with or owned by Outflow, which is obviously one of the most important charitable organisations in St. John. Had a great coffee with Steve, great chat, made some plans. It's just always so nice to see another comedian that's basically living a similar kind of life existence to you. You know, you love your family, love being at home, but you also love creating and love being on the road. But you miss them when you wait. Anyway, it's always Steve is. Any of you that went to the show will know how hilarious Steve is. Obviously, I think I can reveal this. I don't know if I'm allowed to, but the Debaters will be returning to St. John later this year, and yes, I will be. Pardon me, a part of it, or maybe I won't. Now that I've maybe I don't know if I'm supposed to reveal that. But anyway, Steve is unsurprising. You won't be surprised at one of the nicest people in the world, and his wife Nancy and his two daughters are just to join. When I did Woody Point Comedy Festival a few years ago with them, had the time of my life, and again might be returning to that soon. What did I do on Saturday? Saturday I actually went to see the Met Opera at live streamed to cineplexes, cinemas around the world. Did you know this? It's an amazing thing that so the Met, all the major opera companies in America had kind of struggled or started to struggle, basically all flopped, basically. And then this guy, Peter Gelb, who I believe is general manager of the Metropolitan Opera, conceived this thing called Live in HD, where they would basically live stream opera performances around the world. So people, and it was pretty packed in there. It was packed in the cinema. Fidelio at 2 p.m. on a Saturday afternoon, packed in the cinema. And it's been going for it basically essentially saved the Met. Like, I mean, Peter Gelb apparently kept the Metropolitan Opera afloat during like a financial crisis. So many others don't exist because of financial crises. And he kind of apparently modernized opera, which upset some people. But basically seeing this, and again, talking about another filmic feat, I don't know how because it's a live show, so you're seeing the audience coming in, you're seeing the orchestra there, and the cameras are flying around, but you can't see the cameras, so it looks like you're watching a movie essentially, and it's completely live. It's not like it's not like the Andre Rieu ones, which obviously they film and then they release in cinemas. And there is an Andre Rieu 75th birthday special in April that I'm gonna have to hot foot it back from Graham and Ann for. Anyway. What's interesting was Peter Gelb introduced Fidelio, which is, of course, about an evil dictator who is taking over a country and imprisoning people, innocent people. And interestingly, Peter Gelb had another ball. There's a lot of balls in this episode, isn't there? This isn't a child's balls, though. This is a grown-up's balls, so it's no longer problematic. He had the balls in the intro to kind of make reference to what is happening in America, which, again, for someone who is in America, who presumably relies on funding, which is probably being retracted right now because, again, it's the arts and there's nothing that the far right hate more than enlightenment. What's my point? Sorry, it is early, but it's also now 7 a.m. and I've got to get the kids up. So my point is that Peter Gelb had the balls to reference the dictator that is currently taking over the world. I still it's doing my head in how it's COVID 5 years ago. Can you believe that? So it's like there's this last weekend, last Saturday when I was at the Fidelio and when Steve Patterson was at the Imperial and all this, right? That was 5 years ago that I was supposed to do that show at the Imperial. Do anyone remember that, when I was supposed to do it? And then I remember going to Riverside Golf Club. There was a Women of Distinction Awards, and they asked me to speak. And I said, can I do some stand-up? I had some last-minute jokes to test before my big stand-up special filming. Nurse Lal was in town, the nurse who delivered me. I hadn't seen her, obviously, in 44 years. It was my birthday. I was about to film this special. And then Nurse Lal was going to come out on stage, be reunited. It's going to be captured on film. And then the night before, I get the call, there's a COVID, the world's shutting down, you can't do nothing. And then we were like, oh, this is unfortunate, we'll postpone the gig for a couple of weeks. And then it was a couple of months, then it was 2 years. It took 2 years for that show to happen. Mad that is all 5 years ago. And I very quickly went through everything. Oh my God! By the way, So also last week, went to see my son Hunter play hockey in Sussex. Nothing makes me happier than that. And then I got to see River play 2 soccer games on Sunday morning. Absolutely phenomenal. He was in goal for both games, back to back, playing Dieppe. Both incredible games. Thank you to Jason Brown and everyone at Fundy Soccer. You are true saints. Watched a terrible movie on Amazon Prime that night called My Fault London. Monday night, watched The Least versus The Flames. That was absolutely phenomenal as well. Did a great interview during the day, actually, with the new chef at the Algonquin, Chef Kumar from the Algonquin. He worked in Dubai, worked in Muskoka, amazing chef. And I'm actually going to meet him in a couple of weeks. Anyway, okay, I've got to go. Thank you for listening. What do I want to say? This Saturday night, I'm going to see Champions of Magic at the Avenir Centre, which fascinatingly, I'm going to see my old agent, my agent from England, who you would have read about in my book, who I basically had to say goodbye to after he'd worked really hard to get me to a certain point. And then I said, look, I'm moving to Canada. And I mean, thank God for him, he went on to do much bigger, better things. He represents and looks after Champions of Magic. So Alex Jarrett from Northampton, I can't wait to see you Saturday night. Watch Adolescence, I guess, is one of the things I want to say. I've been managing to try and avoid the news. Again, like, I think what really just pushed me over the edge was watching the influencer / reality TV star president turning into an influencer and kind of flogging, just because Trump's kind of met the force he can't control, people's ability to parade anger and distaste through consumer choice and not buying Teslas. And I see people are defacing Tesla dealerships or Tesla places. And I don't obviously encourage violence except when it's against Tesla, in which case I do. No, I don't. But seeing the president out on the lawn of the White House doing influencer videos like a Kardashian. I mean, it's an amazing thing, isn't it, when you kind of go, I would rather Kim Kardashian was the president of the United States because she has more dignity and it loves money less than. Well, here's a question for you. I always ask you for your questions. I'm going to give you a question. I want you to tell me what I should do. I've waited years to finally do some shows in Maine. I finally got the shows booked. Worked hard to convince the venues that I was worth having. This comedian that they haven't heard of, promote these shows hard, and I will come and do a great show, and we'll start to build something. And I had this anyway. The point is, you may know I've got these shows in Maine happening this summer. I was wondering, is it problematic to do them politically? And I thought, well, everyone in Canada is spending all their money going to see American comedians. I don't problematically. I think it's probably fine for me to go to America to do a show and take American money and bring it back to spend in Canada. That's fine. However, do you agree or not? Or do you think I should be boycotting them? I think surely it's fine to take American dollars and bring it back to Canada, isn't it? Isn't that what we want to happen? Since the president seems to be deliberately trying to crash the US economy, which seems so weird. So high on his own supply of fake news that he's literally, what he's doing is more disastrous. There's basically a recession coming there, and it's weird. I'm meeting so many Americans that are here vacationing in Canada. Now they're vacationing in New Brunswick in March. How that's a sign. God bless you, Trump. Thanks for that. But that's a sign that things are bad when people are vacationing in New Brunswick in the most barbaric time. But my point is, a Canadian actor and entrepreneur, Jasmine Mooney. She was in an American Pie sequel. She was arrested at the southern border and held in detention. Basically, she was detained by ICE for 2 weeks. She described it in an interview. It said it was like being kidnapped. I was stuck in a freezing cell without explanation, despite eventually having lawyers and media attention. Yet compared with others, I was lucky. So I guess that answers my question. I guess those are my two questions. Obviously, should I go? And that is risky. For me, go and do some shows in America and end up in jail for 2 weeks. I love my job, but you know me, I love a good story. No, I'm not making light of it. A bad situation. Should I do these shows? Answers on a postcard. Don't send it on a postcard. Email it. comedy@jamesmanager.com. Thank you very much for listening. I am in Windsor, Nova Scotia next weekend. So if you know anyone in or around Windsor, Nova Scotia, Halifax, I'm at the Mermaid Theatre. And next week's podcast, I will try and get you on time, even though next week is going to be the busiest week of filming ever. This week's probably This week's the busiest right now, but next week's going to take it over. Anyway, thanks for listening. See you at Long Bay tonight. Love you all very much. I've been James Manager, and you are extremely kind to spend this wonderful hour with me every week. I appreciate it. Thank you. See you next week. Keep laughing.
Mullinger's Weekly Ramble.